Good day, descendants. I hope you're doing well. Tonight's story follows a ranger from Colorado who gets a call about a missing family. While searching, he realizes there's things in the woods that aren't just myth. Before we continue, throw the like button down the stairs and leave a comment saying where you're watching from, so I know you're here. Time to dive into the unknown. I've worked these mountains long enough to know when something's wrong. San Juan National Forest doesn't always show its teeth. Most days, it's sunshine on the pines, families laughing along the creek, and hikers asking where they can see a moose. But if you stay long enough, if you learn the moods of this place, you can tell when the air's carrying something it shouldn't. That's exactly what I felt the night I got the call about the Hollister family. I'd just finished a long day of trail inspections near Pine River. My boots were wet, my shoulders were sore, and I was already thinking about heating up leftovers at the station. I was packing up my gear when the radio crackled. Ranger Harrison, respond to Vallecito Creek trailhead. Caller reports her husband and 2 children are overdue by 3 hours. They didn't pack for an overnight. Mothers on scene. My stomach dropped. Families don't go missing on that trail. Not normally. It's one of the safest in the region. Well marked. Gentle incline. Plenty of foot traffic. I grabbed my pack and headed out immediately. When I pulled into the parking lot, the sun was already dipping behind the ridgeline. The air had that cold bite that tells you night's coming fast. A lone gray SUV sat crooked in a space near the trail map. A woman stood next to it, hugging herself even though she was wearing a coat. She saw me and hurried over. "You're the ranger," she said, breath shaky. "Please tell me you can find them. They're not answering their phones. They should have been back hours ago." "Take a breath," I told her. "Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." Her name was Laura Hollister. Her husband, Michael, had taken their son, 13-year-old Daniel, and their 10-year-old daughter, Lily, on a short afternoon hike. Just to the river and back. No camping gear, no heavy backpacks. They were supposed to be home by 5. It was almost 8. "They always text me when they reach the river," she said. "They didn't this time." I tried calling. Nothing. Straight to voicemail. I wrote everything down. Clothing descriptions. Ages. What time they left. Which direction they usually walked. "You stay here," I told her. "If they come back on their own, call dispatch immediately. I'll start tracking." She grabbed my sleeve before I could turn away. "Please," she whispered. "Please bring my babies back." Her voice cracked. I felt it in my chest. "I'll do everything I can," I promised. Then I stepped onto the trail. Vallecito Creek Trail starts easy. A wide gravel path that eventually narrows into single track running along the water. The forest on each side was already darkening as I walked. The creek was loud enough to drown out smaller sounds. That's good sometimes, bad other times. Tonight, it felt bad. I moved quickly but carefully, scanning the ground for any sign of recent tracks. The Hollisters weren't wearing heavy boots, more like sneakers. After the first half mile, I found a set of prints that matched the description: a man's size 11, a teenager's size 9, and a smaller set that looked like a 10-year-old's. I followed them deeper into the woods. The sun was gone completely now. The only light came from my flashlight, cutting a narrow beam through the dark. My breath misted in the cold. Everything felt too still. Even the creek sounded muffled behind the trees the further I went in. Around the 2-mile mark, the prints suddenly scattered. The father's tracks veered sharply left. The sons moved forward at a jog. The daughters turned right and then looped back. The pattern was chaotic. Panic patterns. Something had startled them. I swept my light over the dirt, heartbeat climbing into my throat. That's when I saw the first unusual print. It was deep enough that water had already pooled in it. The shape was wrong. Larger than a human foot. Wider, toes splayed like a canine, but elongated. Behind it were faint impressions that looked like knuckles touching down. Something had been moving on two legs, but occasionally steadying itself with its arms. A cold chill crawled down my back. I'd heard stories from locals in this region. Stories I'd always brushed off. Tall shapes, red eyes in the timberline, long fingers, wolf heads, but I'd never seen a print like this. Not until tonight. I continued forward, alert, gun loosened in its holster. 10 minutes later, I found a break in the trees. Branches snapped, pine needles scattered, dirt torn up like something heavy had skidded or been dragged. My light caught something bright against a fallen log. A sketchbook. Small, purple, stickers of cartoon cats along the front. A bent-colored pencil sticking out of the spirals. This had to be Lily's. I crouched and picked it up gently. My flashlight beam fell on the first drawing. A crude but clear image of the trail. A stick figure of her, smiling. Her brother, smiling. Her father standing behind them. Nothing scary, just a kid documenting her day. I flipped to the next page. The drawing was different. The forest looked darker. The creek was scribbled in thicker lines. Behind the three stick figures was something towering. Pointed ears, long limbs, a narrow snout, drawn in dark pencil strokes. The creature's eyes were colored red. Underneath it, she'd written, "It's following us." I swallowed hard and flipped the page. This one showed the same creature, but closer. Behind a tree, half hidden, watching the three drawn figures. Her small handwriting trailed along the bottom. "Dad keeps looking back. Daniel says it might be a big dog. I don't think that's a dog." The next page made my chest tighten. It showed only two figures running. The brother and the father. The daughter's figure was off to the side, looking back. The creature was drawn larger now, much larger, almost filling the page. Words were scribbled along the bottom, shaky, rushed. Dad said, "Don't scream. Stay close. He's scared. I can tell." I flipped again. This drawing was jagged. Lines pressed deep, like the pencil almost tore the paper. Trees bent sideways, something big crashing through them. Stick figure of the father with a line of red across his arm. Below it, it grabbed Dad. I shut the book for a second and took a breath. The forest pressed in around me. Every tree felt like it was hiding something. Every sound carried weight. I reopened the sketchbook and checked the next page. It was the last entry, drawn messy and frantic. A figure of Lily running toward a big flat rock, the creature behind her. Its mouth open wide. The pencil lines shook like her hands must have been trembling. The bottom line read, "I'm hiding now. I can hear it. I think it wants me." The back of the page was smeared, like her hand had pressed hard while she closed the notebook too fast. I stood slowly and turned toward the ridge she'd drawn. A rock outcropping rose above the creek, about 20 yards away. Thick brush, dark gap beneath it. A perfect hiding spot. I hurried toward it. "Lily," I called quietly. "Lily, my name's Ranger Harrison. Your mom sent me to find you. If you can hear me, answer me." Silence. Then a noise. Not from the rock, from deeper in the trees. A low growl. Long, slow. It vibrated the ground at my feet. I drew my firearm. "Lily, if you're under that rock, Stay still, I said softly. I shined my light beneath the outcropping. Something moved. Small, curled up tight. A whisper floated out. Don't let it get me. Relief washed over me. Stay right there. Don't move. I'm going to get you out. I didn't finish the sentence before something massive stepped between two pines 10 feet away. My light hit fur, dark, matted, thick. Then the head. Long, canine, but not shaped like any wolf I'd ever seen. The jaw was longer, teeth larger, eyes glowing faintly in the light. It stood upright, shoulders wider than a man's, arms hanging low almost to its knees, claws curled at the ends like hooked tools. It wasn't mythical or ghostly or dreamlike. It was real, and it was breathing. The creature tilted its head and sniffed the air, then took one slow step forward. I raised my gun and fired once into its chest. The creature jerked back, but didn't fall. It let out a sound that nearly made me drop my weapon. A roar, deep, snarling, furious. It lunged forward, almost faster than I could track. I fired again. This shot hit higher, near the shoulder. It stumbled, caught itself, then stopped. Its eyes flicked toward the rock where Lily hid, then back to me. It understood something. I was in its way. I fired a third round. This one caught its jaw and tore a trail of thick blood that dripped onto the pine needles. It reeled and bolted into the trees with a crashing of branches that shook snow loose from the higher limbs. I didn't wait. I ran to the rock and crouched. "Come on, Lily," I whispered. "I've got you." A small pair of hands reached toward me. She crawled out, shaking. Tears streaked down her cheeks. She threw her arms around me and buried her face against my shirt. "It killed Dad," she sobbed. "It took him." I held her with one arm and kept my gun in my other hand. "Where's your brother?" I asked. She sniffed and pointed with a trembling finger toward a slope east of the trail. "He ran. Dad told him to run and not look back. I tried, but I fell. I hid." I lifted her up. She clung to my neck like she'd never let go. "We're going to find him," I promised. A branch snapped behind us. I turned just as the creature stepped out again. It had circled around. Blood matted its fur, but it wasn't slowing down. Its chest rose in steady, angry heaves. Its eyes focused on Lily. Not me, Lily. Predatory intent. Clear. I grit my teeth and fired again. This time I aimed lower. The bullet tore into its thigh. It snarled and fell, catching itself on its knuckles. I took the chance and ran. Branches whipped my arms as I pushed through the trees with Lily held tight. The creek's roar grew louder. If I could reach the water, we might have a chance. I'd seen bears hesitate to cross deep water. Maybe this thing would too. Behind me, I heard heavy footsteps. Fast, faster than anything that big should move. I reached a bend where the creek widened. The moonlight reflected off the black surface like oil. No time to think. I splashed into the water, holding Lily high. The cold cut through my legs instantly, but I kept going. The current was strong, but not unbearable. Rocks shifted under my feet. My boots slipped. Lily cried into my shoulder. "It's behind us. I hear it." I didn't look back. I just kept moving until the water reached my waist. The creature stopped at the bank. Its claws dug into the mud. It paced left and right, snarling and snapping, but refusing to enter the water. Good. I pushed through to the other side and climbed the steep, muddy bank. Lily clung to me with a grip so tight my arms burned. Once we made it onto the trail again, I stopped long enough to catch my breath. "We need to find your brother," I said. Lily nodded weakly. "We didn't have to search long. I found Daniel 10 minutes later, huddled beneath a fallen tree. He was alive, crying silently, clutching his torn jacket. When he saw his sister, he broke down completely. I gathered both kids close and radioed the nearest incoming deputy. This time, the signal reached. 2 units responded. 10 minutes later, I saw flashlights bobbing through the trees. "Over here," I shouted. When the other rangers arrived, I handed the kids off and told them to get them straight to the medical team. Both were hypothermic and terrified, but alive. Then I went back to the creek with a rifle one of the deputies handed me. The creature was gone. Its tracks led back into the forest, but vanished after 30 yards, like it had climbed up the rocks or moved along fallen timber. We searched for hours. No body. No blood trail. No sign of Michael Hollister either. We found heavy drag marks farther into the woods, but they ended at a steep drop near the river gorge. The current there was strong enough to take anything. We never recovered a body. The next morning at the station, I looked over Lily's sketchbook again. Every page, every drawing, the progression was clear. Happiness, nervousness, fear, then terror. That last page stayed with me. I'm hiding now. I can hear it. I think it wants me. Something hunted that family. Not an animal acting on instinct. A predator that made choices. A creature capable of tracking, circling, and outmaneuvering us in its home terrain. Something that stopped at the waterline and waited. Something that came back for the kids. Something that didn't fear a gunshot. I filed my report. The sheriff read it twice without saying a word. "You sure you want to submit it like this?" he finally asked. "I'm sure," I said. He hesitated. "This'll cause trouble. So will pretending it was a cougar." He didn't argue. The Hollister children survived. Physically, anyway. The mental scars will take longer. Their mother hugged me so hard I felt my ribs click. She thanked me over and over. But her eyes told the truth. She knew what I knew. Her husband didn't just die out there. He was taken. The forest felt different after that night. Colder, older, like something was awake under the pines and waiting. A few days later, I went back to the spot alone. I stood near the rock where I'd found Lily. I listened to the wind through the branches. I swear I heard breathing. I loaded my rifle. I told myself I'd go back again soon. Not for a missing family, for the thing that hunts them. 2 weeks after I found the Hollister kids, I went back to my routine, but I never really came back to normal. I kept hearing Lily's voice in my head. "Don't let it get me." I kept seeing the look in her brother's eyes when he realized I wasn't lying about their dad. But most of all, I kept seeing that thing standing at the waterline, watching us, studying us, choosing not to cross. Animals fear guns. Animals fear loud noises. Animals fear fire. Whatever I saw that night didn't fear any of that. It hesitated at the water for a reason that wasn't fear. It wasn't afraid of drowning. It just didn't want to cross. That meant something. Something important. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'd wake up at night with this feeling that the forest wasn't done with me. Like something was moving at the edge of my dreams, pacing, waiting for me to fall asleep long enough to step inside and take whatever it wanted. So after 2 weeks of pretending I was fine, I packed a rifle that wasn't regulation and gear, that wasn't approved, and drove back to the Vallecito Creek Trail alone. I didn't file a plan. I didn't ask permission. I didn't tell anyone. If that creature was still out here, if it had come after that family, if it had taken Michael Hollister and dragged him into the dark, there was no guarantee it wouldn't come back for someone else. I wasn't going to let that happen. Not again. When I reached the trailhead, the lot was empty. The air was colder than it had been the first night. Snow dusted the trees, even though the sky was clear. The creek's roar echoed through the canyon like it was angry. I loaded my rifle and slung it over my shoulder. My boots crunched over frost as I stepped onto the trail. Immediately, I felt it. That shift in the forest. That quiet tension. The wrongness. I'd felt it once before. The night of the Hollister case. The air felt heavy, like something was sitting on my chest. Even the creek seemed quieter, as if it was holding its breath. I followed the trail until the sunlight vanished behind the ridgeline. The shadows grew long and stretched across the path like reaching fingers. I kept my light off. I didn't want to announce myself too early. I walked for almost an hour before I reached the place where I'd found Lily hiding under the rock outcropping. The rock was still there, silent and cold. Her footprints were long gone. Snow and wind had erased everything. But the memory of her shaking hands reaching toward me felt fresh. I moved past it and deeper into the woods. Tonight, I wasn't following a missing family. I was hunting a predator. The deeper I went, the more everything felt wrong. Birds should have been roosting. Squirrels should have been chattering. There should have been movement. There wasn't. Not a single sound. Just the crunch of my boots and the steady thump of my pulse. About 2 miles in, I found the first sign. A tree trunk. 10 feet high. Deep claw marks raked across it. Not bear marks. Bears leave wide arcs. These were long, straight, deep. Intentionally placed. Like it was marking territory. 5 minutes later, I found the second sign. A deer. What was left of it. Not eaten like a mountain lion kill. Not gutted like a bear kill. It was torn apart, split almost down the middle. Ribs cracked open like they were nothing. Tongue missing. Eyes gone. Throat removed. The snow around it was dark with dried blood. The kill wasn't fresh. Maybe a day old. I could feel eyes on me. I could feel attention. The forest was watching. I checked my rifle again and kept moving. Another mile in, I reached a narrow bend along the creek. The water was faster here, louder, the rocks slick with frozen spray. This was where the father's tracks had ended the first night, where I'd found drag marks that disappeared over the gorge. We never found his body, but I knew what had happened. That creature had taken him, it had eaten him, and it wasn't done. The cold air stung my face as I climbed up the rocky slope on the far side of the creek. The moon was climbing above the ridge, silver light cutting through the trees. I reached a flat section above the gorge and stopped. The smell hit me first. Rot, animal musk, wet earth, old blood. I lifted my flashlight and scanned the area. Bones. Not human. Not that I could tell anyway. Mostly elk and deer. But piled, arranged, almost stacked. Not random. Something lived here. Something intelligent enough to bring its kills back to the same place. Something that dragged a grown man through the trees like he weighed nothing. I stepped forward slowly. My beam landed on an opening in the rock, a dark hollow beneath an overhang, deep enough to be a den, wide enough for something large to move through comfortably. My throat tightened. I'd found its home. A low crunch sounded behind me. Not a twig snap, not a branch bending. A footstep, slow, heavy, deliberate. I didn't turn quickly. I eased my hand toward my rifle and pivoted just enough to see over my shoulder. At first, I didn't see anything. Then the trees shifted. A shadow stepped between 2 trunks. Then another. Then a shape emerged. The creature was bigger than I remembered. Its fur darker. Its chest broader. Its jaw still torn where my bullet had ripped through the flesh 2 weeks earlier. Its left eye was gone. Just a dark, hollow, dripping, thick fluid. It stared at me with the remaining eye. Focused, aware. It remembered me. And it was angry. I raised my rifle, and the creature vanished. It didn't run. It didn't leap. One moment, it was there. The next, it was gone. Silence collapsed around me. I turned slowly, rifle ready, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Nothing. Then something rushed me from the right. I spun and fired. The shot slammed into the creature's shoulder. It crashed sideways into a tree, snapping a branch as thick as my forearm. I fired again, but it was already moving, fast enough that my second shot hit only bark. It circled me, staying in the shadows, letting me hear it, letting me get scared. It was hunting, not feeding, hunting. I backed toward the den entrance and took aim. The creature stepped out just enough for me to see half its face. It crouched low, muscles bunched, breath steaming, teeth bared. It charged. I fired, missed, fired again. This one hit its leg. It stumbled, regained balance, and lunged. It hit me like a truck. I went down hard. My rifle skidded across the dirt, out of reach. The creature slammed a clawed hand down where my head had been, cracking into the rock. I rolled and kicked. My boot connected with its ribs. It snarled and snapped its jaws inches from my arm. I grabbed a rock and smashed it against its snout. Bone cracked. Blood sprayed my face. It reared back and roared so loud the trees shook. I scrambled toward my rifle, fingers clawing through dirt. The creature lunged. I threw myself sideways. Its claws raked my jacket, tearing it open. It spun and lunged again. My hand brushed metal. I grabbed the rifle, rolled, aimed. The creature launched itself into the air. I pulled the trigger. The shot hit it dead center in the chest. It twisted midair, crashed sideways, and skidded across the dirt. It hit a tree trunk with enough force to shake snow loose from the branches. It tried to stand. It collapsed. Then it stood again, slow, shaking, blood pouring from its wounds. It stepped forward. 1 step, 2. I raised the rifle, aimed at its head, and fired my final round. The bullet hit just above the remaining eye. The creature jerked, fell, and didn't get up. I stayed frozen for nearly 30 seconds, rifle shaking in my hands, waiting for it to rise again. It didn't. When I finally approached, the forest went silent, completely silent. Even the creek sounded distant. The creature's chest wasn't moving. Its remaining eye was dull. It was dead. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding and dropped to one knee in the snow. It was over. After 2 weeks of nightmares. After 2 weeks of hearing it breathe in my memory. After 2 weeks of feeling watched whenever I closed my eyes. It was over. Or at least, I thought it was. Because as I turned to leave, as I picked up my pack and checked my radio, I heard something behind me. Not breathing. Not movement. A sound that froze my blood. Another roar. Deeper, louder, farther back in the forest. Then another. And another. 3 voices, all answering the first. The forest wasn't relieved. It was waking up. I looked at the creature at my feet, then at the dark woods behind the den. Then I ran. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs went numb, until the creek roared beside me and the trail came into view. I didn't stop until I reached my truck. I didn't feel safe until I drove past the station's gates and locked the door behind me. The next morning, the sheriff asked what I found. I didn't find anything, I said. But he looked at my torn jacket. He looked at the blood on my boots. He looked at my shaking hands. And he didn't argue. I can't pretend the forest's normal anymore. I know what lives in it. I know what watches. I know what hunts. I killed one. There are more. And they know my scent now. They know I came back. They know I killed one of their own. And I know, without a doubt, they'll come looking. Soon, very soon. The ranger, brave enough to go back and finish the Dogman off and get revenge for the Hollister family, just to find out there's even more out there. Would you have done the same? Would you have been able to sleep at night without getting closure? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, descendants, take care.